Good morning and welcome to A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. In our program this morning, Nigeria and South Africa signed 9 bilateral agreements ranging from defense, energy, telecommunications and cultural exchanges. We talk to the Minister of Public Works as he prepares to table his budget for the new financial year. And later in our program, we'll bring you highlights of a debate on the budget vote of the Department of Basic Education. Let's go to our first item. President Jacob Zuma has called for the establishment of the African Standby Force to help quell military coups on the continent. The president said this after meeting his Nigerian counterpart, Goodluck Jonathan, at Daniels in Cape Town. The Nigerian president is on a state visit to bolster diplomatic and trade relations with South Africa.
South Africa and Nigeria, the continent's economic powerhouses. Both countries are also key in bringing peace and stability to the continent. But there has been speculation about rivalry between the two countries. But challenges facing the continent, including coups in some African countries, have forced these giants to work together.
Part of the capacity needed by the AU is the establishment of the African Standby Force for rapid deployment in crisis areas without delays. The need for an intervention brigade has become more crucial in light of the situations of instability in the Central African Republic, the Eastern DRC and Mali, where decisive intervention is needed.
A view shared by his Nigerian counterpart.
All of you know that if the continent of Africa must move forward, then the world expects maximum cooperation between South Africa and Nigeria. And we are just doing that.
On trade relations, these two countries have made significant progress. Two-way trade is estimated at $3.6 billion. It's heavily skewed in favor of South Africa.
We have a number of South African companies doing very, very well in Nigeria. I will encourage more to come in. At the same time, we also request that Nigerian businessmen and women be given the opportunity to also invest in their sister country of South Africa.
Meanwhile, President Zuma has welcomed the increase in the number of Nigerian tourists visiting South Africa.
Our records indicate that Nigerian tourists contributed a total of 720 million rand to the South African economy last year. To boost tourism links further, South Africa is in the process of opening a tourism office in Lagos.
9 bilateral agreements were signed between the two countries. They are in the field of defense, energy, telecommunications, immigration, women development and cultural exchanges. Mzwandile Mbeje, A View from the House, Parliament.
Later in the day, President Goodluck Jonathan called for cooperation between his country and South Africa to bring about peace and prosperity in Africa. Addressing a joint sitting of Parliament, President Jonathan said the need for the two countries to work together was evident in instances like the drive to secure Africa a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. A display of cordial relations despite perceptions of rivalry, fueled partly by calls for reform at the United Nations. Africa wants a permanent seat on the Security Council, but Nigeria says there is no need for such tension.
And let me use this opportunity to correct a very negative and wrong impression that has been peddled by some sectors, that Nigeria and South Africa are competing to represent Africa and the permanent membership seats of the United Nations. You cannot compete for something that is not existing. I have never seen two women fighting over non-existing husband. the commitment African leaders have is that Africa must be represented. They must give us slots as permanent members of that global body. And if Nigeria and South Africa will not lead that struggle, who else will lead that struggle?
The two countries agree on protecting the continent's assets.
We must work together to put an end to the exploitation and exploration of Africa's resources for export without any value being added. We must check the illicit transfer of huge sums of money to the developed world from Africa through sharp practices such as transfer pricing, tax evasion, and corruption, all of which contribute to Africa's economic underperformance.
The Nigerian president also commended the rising number of democratic states, but lamented weak democracies.
African leaders, and particularly our parliamentarians, must commit to the plan to check the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. The production, circulation, and use of these arms and weapons pose a serious threat to political stability and the safety and welfare of our people.
On strategic trade, there were calls for balance as more South African companies gain prominence in Nigeria. Well, after the break, we talked to the Minister of Public Works about progress made in rooting out corruption and returning the